guys, so today we're walking. I'm on the running track that goes around the golf course in Kachiru, and the reason that I'm out here today is because my friends and I are considering doing a challenge, and I say considering in the loosest possible sense. Is my friend suggested that we go and climb a small volcano next year, and we're all kind of looking at each other wondering whether or not we physically can. It's the smallest volcano that there is, but I definitely am not very fit. I maybe punch a boxing bag once a fortnight, if that. I took up boxing during COVID, and I was doing really well at it when there was nothing else to do. But now I kind of very rarely do it. Oh, golfers. So yeah, I very rarely do exercise, and I'm starting to feel that. So what I thought I'd do is start a little series where I go for a short walk and I answer some questions from Reddit and Facebook about Rwanda and about Kigali and about life here. Because I thought if I was talking, it would probably take my mind off the fact that I was walking. So let's give that a little bit of a go. I don't actually know where this running track leads entirely, but I do know that there's a very big hill that goes back up to my house. And so what I've decided to do is I'm not going to make myself go round in a loop and end up back at my house. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to walk, and when I've had enough, I'm going to hail a public moto and get them to take me home, because I feel like that's quite a sensible way of doing this, and then there's like no real pressure to make it round in a big loop. So let's kick off with the questions. Anyway. I'm wondering about...
You are walking here, but it's not allowed when you don't dress sports wear.
What?
When you want to walk here, you must dress sports wear.
Okay guys, so I have just been kicked off the walking track because apparently you're not allowed to walk on you're not allowed to walk on the walking track unless you're wearing sportswear. So unless I get myself... Oh, hey! Hey! Sorry, how are you?
Hey! I'm going to get it, finish.
Okay.
I'm going to finish this. After evening, I'm coming, I'm give you back.
Sorry, that was my mechanic. Basically, my bike needs fixing, so he's just popping past to let me know that he's off to fix the bike. Oh, this is pretty. So yes, I just got kicked off the walking track because apparently you're not allowed to walk on it unless you're wearing sportswear. And there is absolutely no way on this earth that I am getting some lycra pants. So you're only allowed to exercise if you dress appropriately, apparently. And I am not appropriate for the walking track, so, oh, this is a shame. So that used to be Sunday Park, and I absolutely loved Sunday Park. I would go and walk around that every single day if it was still open. I did a video about it, but it's closed down, so you can't. Okay, so I'm going to walk up to the top of the road, and then I'm going to try and find somewhere quiet to walk and talk, because it's a bit of a busy road here. So let me get to the top of the road, and then we'll start on the questions. Hello, Agama. Hello, Agama. Hello, beautiful. Hello. Can I get a little bit closer? No. Bye-bye, Agama. Okay, so the first question is from somebody who's visiting Rwanda soon, and they're asking whether it's best to take out USD at the airport or whether or not they should bring the USD to exchange when they get here. Now, generally, there is a bit of a misconception, especially among Americans, that, you know, Rwanda and potentially the whole of East Africa operate in dollars. And we don't. Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that as a tourist, because a lot of the big ticket items like Akagera Park, you know, the big hotels and things definitely will accept dollars. I think the Ellen DeGeneres Museum, when I was there, was only advertising in dollars. But generally speaking, the currency of the country is francs, and it's actually illegal for most businesses to advertise in dollars. But really what you want to do is when you get here and you're at the airport is just go to the ATM and take out Rwandan francs, because that's what you're going to need. If you're exploring Kigali or you're going to local restaurants, you're going to need to pay in francs. So, you know, it's really easy. Check out my video on arriving in Rwanda for how to do that. So the next question is, outside of Kigali, which is your favourite city and why? Now, there are a lot of options on this one. You've got Gisenyi, which is up on the border with DRC in the north. You've got Musanze or Ruhengeri, which is about a couple of hours north of Kigali. That's where you go if you're going to see the gorillas. And there's also Kironge or Kibuye, which is on Lake Kivu to the west. And that is a very, very pretty place to go and visit. And definitely one of my personal favourites is a town called Nyanza to the south. And the reason that I like Nyanza is because it's got a really old kind of King's Palace reconstruction. So you can go and see the palaces that the old kings of Rwanda used to live in. But I think if I was going to pick a weekend away, it would either be Gisenyi, which has got this beautiful infinity pool at Nirvana Heights, lots of really pretty places to visit, and it's got a beach and beachside bars. It's really, really nice. Or I'm probably going to choose Kibuye. If I was going on a writing retreat, Kibuye is like Gisenyi on Valium. So it's got the really beautiful lake, the boat rides, all of that, but it's nice and quiet, it's peaceful. Okay, so if we carry on up the hill, then we get to a really busy road, and it's going to be very, very difficult to keep talking on a busy road. So I'm going to go off to the left because I don't really know what's down there. Looks like a kind of a posh area. I think this loops back round towards my house. Just going around the golf course. Right, so the next question that I've got is somebody who's moving here for an internship. And they're asking whether or not Gikondo is a nice place to live and if it's safe as a single female. So Gikondo and Rebero is absolutely lovely. Rebero is where we spent New Year's Eve. Really beautiful views of the city. So Ribero's lovely. Gikondo's nice. I've lived in Gikondo twice. I used to live up near Second Mires. And I also used to live in a little house just behind Rujugiro's mansion, back when it was a mansion. So yeah, Gikondo and Rebero are lovely. As to whether or not it's safe for single females, I would say that pretty much all of Kigali is. You're hard pressed to think of a district that is dodgy to live in. All of Kigali is pretty safe. Nyamirambo used to have a bit of a reputation because it used to be kind of like the Wild West, but it has been gentrified in recent years and pretty much looks just like every other part of Kigali now. Nyabugogo down by the bus park is probably a place that you don't really want to live just because it's so busy, so much traffic, so many international buses. But yeah, everywhere else is just safe, green, clean. Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to say that one area is nicer than another. So yeah, the only thing that I would say is that there's a ton of building work going on all over Kigali at the moment. You can't really go anywhere without hearing like jackhammers and saws and things like that. So you might want to check out the area for buildings and buildings going up. But also, I did a video recently about things to check out when renting in Kigali. You might want to just check out that video, and if you get the chance to look at a few places before you move in, that's usually a good idea. So book into something like an Airbnb and then go and visit a few places if you can. But I know that if you're moving here, often the accommodation is provided for you, so you don't get much of a say in where you're living. So yeah. That's the Zimbabwean embassy. Looks kind of cute. What is on fire in Kimihurura? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's on fire in Kimihurura, but if anybody finds out, drop it in the comments because I think everybody's quite fascinated. Next question, how do people deal with health insurance when they're staying in Kigali or down in Western Province? Hold on a moment, I think I'm going to answer this in 2 seconds when I reach this point of the road. Look at this as a backdrop. Look, that is Kigali Convention Centre just behind me. It's a beautiful view. I don't think the camera's really doing it justice, but there's a really nice vista of the convention centre there. Anyway, wow, let me get a close-up. That's such a nice view. That's looking across the golf course directly at the convention centre, and you can see the cranes for all of the construction work. Okay, so the question about the health insurance, not to sound like a broken record, but I've done a video about this. The short answer to it is there is an insurance company here called Old Mutual, and that's pretty much the one that all expats go to. Health cover, I think they also do vehicle insurance. Yeah, they do quite a few packages, and you can choose family plans, individuals, whether or not to include things like dentistry. And they also, they also cover you in East Africa, I think. So if you're traveling abroad, you can tell them and they'll cover you whilst you're traveling. So if you're not taking out travelers insurance in the country that you're coming from, if you're planning to move here long term, then Old Mutual is the way to go. And if you want the long answer, check out my video on that. This really fascinates me, is public dustbins all around the golf course, which I think is really awesome. Ibabura, I don't know. Ibitabura, I guess one of those is for recyclables and one is not. So I guess Ibitabura is probably not recyclable, and Ibibura probably is, but I need to check what that means when I get home. My Kinyarwanda is not great. But yeah, that's really cool. They look like they're having a nice afternoon golfing. Okay, so the next question is from somebody who has not been to Kigali in a while, so 2019, and they're asking about the best apps for food, transport, that kind of thing. I've got to be honest, there aren't that many that, you know, are specific to Rwanda. So I definitely think one of the best ones is going to be Google Maps. Like if you're going anywhere, Google Maps is the way to go, because that has all of the restaurants, all of the tourist destinations on it. Yeah, and it actually does work pretty well here. So a while ago, the Google vans came around Kigali, and I think a lot of Rwanda, and they did the street view. So if you go into Street Maps, you can actually drop yourself into Street View and see a lot of the places in Kigali that you're going to before you actually get there. which I think is sort of really helpful. I think another really useful app is Vuba Vuba. So Vuba Vuba means quickly, and it is our food delivery app, so like Uber Eats. And that's definitely worth picking up because it's got a lot of restaurants on there and they can deliver to your door or your hotel. However, I would suggest that another one that you want to get, which is not an app, it's just a WhatsApp number, and I'll leave it below. But it's for a delivery company called Q&E, which stands for Quick and Easy. And you don't really see them advertised, but they are 100% worth knowing because they're like a personal moto delivery courier service, and they can find you anything. I'm not exaggerating. There's been times when I've called them up and I've said, you know, I need sawdust. Where can I get sawdust? And they'll find it for me and they'll deliver it. So it's quite useful if you get here and you're just finding your feet and you don't know where to get things. Maybe you haven't got a house guard sorted out yet, so you haven't got anybody to help you and go shopping for you. You can just send them a list and they'll go and get what you need. So yeah, they don't have an app. And like I say, they don't really advertise a lot, but they are an amazing service. So I'll leave the WhatsApp below, and if you WhatsApp them, they will tell you how much they charge. And yeah, you can take it from there. Now, we do have a couple of taxi apps. So we've got Move and we've got Yago. And the only thing I'm going to say is, for me, I personally have never had a lot of luck with them. Often I find that the app doesn't really work very well, or if it does work, the driver never turned up. Or if they turned up and they were like 5 streets away and it took 20 minutes to try to actually get them. So just for me, I personally don't recommend those apps. I don't feel like they're brilliant. I go for whoever is in front of you when you need your taxi or you need your moto. Because if they're in front of you, you're not going to have to wait to get them. So yeah, I mean, if you don't know East Africa, Rwanda very well, all of these motorbikes that you see going past me, those are all public motorbikes. You just stop one and you get on. Now, in Rwanda, you do find that you need at least a rough grasp of geography, because taxis tend to be a bit better, but motorbikes often have no idea where anything is, or if they do, they're not comfortable in English or taking directions in English. So it's a good idea to have a rough idea of where you're going, or again, use Google Maps and track where you're going. So I've done a video. Oh, that was loud. So I've got a video about how to take public motors and just a little bit of basics on how to direct them. I suggest you go and figure that out, because once you get the hang of them, they make your life so easy. I mean, taxis are good, but they're also expensive. And buses are, you know, they do exist, but they're not exactly comfortable and they don't take you to exactly where you need to go. So a moto is that nice middle ground. It's affordable, and most of the time they can take you door to door. So it's worth getting the hang of those. But back to the question about apps, I'd say Vuba Vuba and Google Maps and you're good to go. I can't think of a lot of Rwanda-specific apps that would help you in any other way. If you know of some, drop them down in the comments, because I'd be interested to know. Alright, so the next one that's coming up is somebody's asking about which of the big name hotels to stay in to be closest to the city centre. And they've sort of asked about Marriott, Radisson and Milcolleen. I'd probably also add Serena to that. So, the famous one, the really famous one is Milcolleen, because it's one of the oldest hotels in town, and it's also the original Hotel Rwanda. So that film was based about that hotel. So that's one that I think has a lot of historical significance that people have heard about. Marriott is huge. Marriott is this massive, newish, one of the newer hotels in town. It always reminds me of an airport. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. I've been to their Sunday brunch a couple of times, and they do an incredible brunch. But yeah, it always feels very much like you'd expect a huge international hotel to feel like. It's got this like really long entrance corridor, this lobby, and I always feel like I should be dragging like a suitcase behind me and looking for my flight. And Serena was the larger hotel in that area just before Marriott opened, and they're quite close to each other. They're just next door to each other. So Milcolleen, Serena and Marriott are all pretty much in the centre of town. Radisson is a huge hotel that is right on the side of the convention centre. So we saw the convention centre earlier, and Radisson is attached to that. Now that's a little bit further out of the centre of town, but what most people don't realise about Kigali is that there really is nothing in the centre of town. So people want to be in the centre of town because they think that there's going to be lots going on there, like, you know, museums and, I don't know, cinemas and theatres and things to see. There really aren't. It's a very, very small, very, very quiet city. So you're probably going to have as much to do staying in Radisson as you are if you were staying in the centre of town, in Marriott or Milcolleen. Yeah, like most of the things that people come to Rwanda to do are like the gorillas or things like that. They're out of Kigali. And inside Kigali, there's a lot of restaurants in the centre of town that are very nice, but there are also lots of nice cafes and restaurants and things to do further out of town, so in Kachiru and Kimihurura and those sort of areas. So I wouldn't deliberately try to book your hotel in the centre of town thinking that that's where the action is. And again, Kigali is a very safe, easy city to get around. So again, if you figure out how to use motors, no problem. You can get anywhere in Kigali in 20 minutes. There is nowhere anywhere in Kigali that takes longer than that. These are beautiful flowers. They're called silk tree flowers. They're just really, really pretty. Oh wow, those are amazing bright red flowers. It's just like a cascade of red flowers. They're beautiful. We're still on the edge of the golf course. Looks like a tropical paradise. Oh my goodness, look, look, look! Look, 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 look! So these white birds in front of us are ibex, I think. But look over here. That is a marabou stork. It's got the unflattering title of the ugliest bird in Africa. Because it's got a bright red bold head, but they're really impressive. They're huge. Oh, there's some more of them over there by the stream. That's just delightful. It's kind of crazy to see this kind of wildlife right in the middle of town. He just yawned. So yeah, there's just wetlands right in the middle of town. There's a really tall white stork over there. It's a shame there aren't more places like this to walk without all of the traffic, because there is so much traffic. I think this little one here is an egret. So the egrets like to follow around the elephants in Akagera, And then down there you've got a really big tall white stork, I think, or white, I don't know, white heron, white crane. It looks like a heron, but it's white. And some flowers that have fallen in the stream. That's pretty. Oh, look, 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 look. There's a grey heron. That wouldn't look out of place on a canal in the UK. Beautiful red flowers out at the moment. Oh no, guys, I've got to the top of the hill and it's the running track again. And I'm not allowed on the running track because I'm not wearing lycra. I'm not revealing enough. Damn. I really, really want to go that way. So I think I have to cross over the road and use the path like a pleb. I am a disgrace to the running track. I may not cross. All right, this is going to be fun. Let's head over there. All right, I've got to be a bit careful filming and walking at the moment because the type of paving slabs that they use are kind of uneven, and there's a whole load of these little metal kind of horseshoes that poke out of the concrete, and it's so easy to trip over them, like go arse over tit if you're not watching where you're going. But the next question was about yellow fever, and this one comes up a lot. Is do you need a yellow fever jab to come to Rwanda? Now, technically speaking, Rwanda's kind of an anomaly in the region in that we don't really have yellow fever here. It's not really an issue. So the general advice is that if you're travelling to Rwanda and you're coming from a country that is not in a yellow fever zone, then you don't need the yellow fever jab. However, if you're going to go on anywhere from here, like Kenya, I think Uganda, Tanzania, then you are going to need it. Somebody almost got himself unalived there by trying to overtake into oncoming traffic, which is a daily sport in Kigali, in Rwanda, to be honest. People do like to play chicken with oncoming traffic. Yeah, so generally, if you're coming from a region that does not have yellow fever, then it's okay not to have the yellow fever jab. But like I say, if you're going on anywhere else around here, then you are going to need it, and they're strict about it. But there is some good news, because a few years ago, the World Health Organization, WHO, discovered that one yellow fever jab lasts for life. So it used to be that people thought that if you had a yellow fever jab, that you needed to have a booster like 10 years later. But that's no longer the case, is they have discovered with yellow fever that the initial jab is enough for life. So, you know, if you're not sure about it, I would honestly say if you're not sure about it and you are physically able to take injections, then get it, because, you know, you only need it once and you're done. But yeah, if you have health reasons that you can't take injections, then if you're coming from somewhere that doesn't have a yellow fever problem, then you don't technically need it, providing you're not travelling on to somewhere that does. So yeah, that's actually a question that comes up really frequently. These are one of my favourite flowers. I think they're a type of oriental lily, but they're really pretty. Got a little butterfly, little moth. They've got them in lemon yellow as well. Oh, that's kind of cool. There's a Congolese mask on the balcony. Honeysuckle and bougainvillea. It's very pretty. So somebody now asking about the safety in Gisenyi and whether or not it's safe to go and visit. So Gisenyi is a town right up on the border with DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And it's a wonderful weekend getaway. I mean, I love Gisenyi. But not gonna lie, there have been well, there has been a lot of friction between Rwanda and DRC in recent years. And as such, there was a bit of fighting in Goma, which is just over the border from Gisenyi. And, you know, there have been incidents over the years. Not going to lie, there have been times when I've not been too sure about going up there. And the way that I usually judge it is I've got a really good friend who lives in Gisenyi, and she's lived there for a long time. So if she's leaving, then I tend not to head up there. But if she's staying, if she's there and she's okay, then I will go up there. Generally speaking, the border is pretty safe. It's usually, the fighting will be on the other side of the border, and Rwanda tends to remain pretty safe. There have been a couple of incidents over the years, like there was a fighter jet that came over at one point. But I would say, as somebody who lives here long term, Gisenyi is fine to visit. If you're heading up for a weekend, I mean, keep an eye on the news. A really good thing to do is to set up Google News alerts. So I'll explain how to do that in the information below. But if anything goes south, you tend to get the news alerts quickly. But providing that there's no sort of major news alerts going on for Gisenyi, I'd say it's safe to visit. So at the moment, I would have no problem getting on my motorbike and going up there for the weekend. I'm not sure I'd move there. It is incredibly pretty. It's a lovely place to live. But at the same point, you just don't know when things are going to kick off. So keep an eye on the news. Ask in places like Expats in Rwanda, which is a forum on Facebook. See what people are saying, but for the most part, it's safe to go to. The trouble never usually crosses into Rwanda. In fact, it never crosses into Rwanda. So, yeah. Okay guys, that is crazy. I'm not sure how long I've been walking for, but I was going to keep going and then just get a motor home. But I'm currently going up a steep hill at the moment and I'm not too far from home. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll catch you in a minute. All right guys, I've just got home. I've been walking for about an hour and 50 minutes, which I feel is pretty good. It said on ChatGPT that if I could walk for about 2 hours without feeling like I'm going to die, that I should have the fitness to get up this mountain. But I have to say it's the up part that bothers me, because coming back to my house from that walk was fairly non-hilly by Rwandan standards, but there's a bit of a monster hill coming back to my house, and I definitely don't enjoy uphill very much. But I did better than I thought I would. I mean, I stopped a lot to take photographs of the birds and the plants and things like that, but I didn't stop at a cafe, I didn't stop to sit down or anything, so I've been walking for a couple of hours. I don't feel too bad. I don't feel too out of breath. It's always a bit difficult with me because I am asthmatic, but if I take my inhalers before I set out, it's fine. It's even better if I remember to take them with me. But yeah, I feel good. The thing that always bothers me about walking, and I have been bothered by this since I was in school and PE classes, is I've got quite light skin, and when I exercise I go bright red, to the point where people ask if I'm okay. It's like I don't look well. I'm fine, but people ask because I look so red. And it's just always bothered me since school, which is why I don't like to exercise in public or around other people, which is why I like to box at home or, you know, do something in a swimming pool where, you know, it's not so obvious, because I feel quite self-conscious about it. But the friends that I'm going to go hiking with if we go, I mean, we're such a tight group of friends, and one of my other friends has exactly the same problem, so like there's no judgment. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty proud of myself. I mean, I haven't been walking since the last time I went on the hash earlier this year with Harris and Rob. And yeah, in an hour and 50 minutes, so almost 2 hours, I've covered this amount of distance, whatever is up here on the screen. I don't know, I haven't figured it out yet. But yeah, it's not really the distance, it's just I've been walking fairly consistently for the past couple of hours and I'm feeling good. You know, I need to have some water. I've got some ice cold water. And I'm hungry. I need to make some lunch. But other than that, I feel fine. I was a bit worried because in the past I have taken out the Achilles heel in one leg and the ACL in the same leg. So I've got 1.5 legs functioning, but I think I did okay. So yeah, I hope that these questions have been useful or interesting. I'm planning to probably do this again. So if you've got any more questions, leave them in the comments below. And next time I go walking, I shall endeavour to answer them. See you in the next one.